Android uses the same Java thread framework to achieve multi-threading, but we will have to take care about some of the things. One of them is the UI thread. There is one main thread in Android application, and that main thread is also called the UI thread. The UI thread is responsible for the user's interaction with UI. That means it handles all the button clicks, animations, displaying data and images on UI and other UI related things. The UI thread should not be kept busy for other long running operations, and it should be available every time to do UI related things. Because UI thread is only for UI operations, we should not do any long running operations on UI thread. We should avoid these operations on UI thread like get data from internet, reading file from permanent storage, do heavy calculations, and parsing large data. Why? Why should UI thread be kept free for only UI related operations? Because we want to achieve responsiveness in our app. Responsiveness is equal to smooth user experience. For example, if the user has clicked any button without delay, it should show the response to the user. And if there is even a little delay in the response to user action, it will lead to bad user experience. And delay can even lead to ANR dialogues, that is, application not responding dialog, like this. And even it can also lead to a crash like this. So we would not want this type of experiences in our app. Now we'll talk about handling network operations. So we would not handle network operations on UI thread. We would not ever do internet operations on man thread, because in latest Android versions, it will also lead to network on main thread exception that will cause crash in our application. We'll use a worker thread for all the network operations, like we did in our earlier example in the last class. But while handling the network operations in background thread, we would also have to take care about updating the UI in main thread, because if we update UI in background thread, it will also lead to crash, because UI cannot be updated from background thread and it can only be updated from the UI thread. So when the operation is complete, we'll give the result back to the UI thread to display that result and the related UI updates on UI. We'll use either handlers, async tasks, or the various post methods given in Android. For now, we will talk about async tasks. This is the skeleton of async task code. We will extend async task class to create our own custom async task, and we will override these three methods: do in background, on progress update, on post execute. Do in background is the most important one, because here we will achieve our background task. Here we will do our long running network operation. In on progress update, we can use this method to update progress on UI, and in on post execute method, we can finally display the end result on UI. The parameters being passed here define the type of parameters that will be passing in these methods. For example, here we are passing the many URLs in do in background method. Here we are getting the progress to be updated to the UI, and here we are getting the final result returned by do in background, and we'll be using this result to update the UI. So three methods: do in background, on progress update, on post execute. Do in background for doing long running background task, on progress update for showing the progress of the background task, for example percentage of downloaded file, and on post execute we finally showing the result of the task completed. Let's see the async task in our code. So earlier we did our network operation using thread. The get data is the one which is connecting to the internet and downloading the data from server. We are running this in a background thread, but now instead of thread we'll be using an async task. I'll comment out this code and I will be using get data task class, which I have created by extending async task. I have defined or overridden do in background method. In do in background method I am further calling the same get data method, which is actually downloading the data from the server. So this is the method which is long running and which is a blocking operation, and I am running this method in do in background, which is safe. And when I get data from this method, I'll return this data. And while I will return this data, when this method will return, on post execute method will be called with the same data returned by do in background method. Here using this data, I'll be showing this data in mdata.tv that I have already created to show the data. Let's see the operation by running this app in emulator. So this method has downloaded the data. This is sample data, this is plain text, and this has shown the data on the UI. Let's talk about the different data formats that we can get from the server and that we can parse to show our result on UI. We have already talked about the simple text and we have seen the demo. Other data formats that we can get is JSON, XML, images, or audio and video files. All this data can be extracted from input stream, which is returned by HTTP URL connection. So if the data available in input stream is JSON, we'll parse according to that. If it is either images or audio video file, we will decode those data files according to the format required. We'll talk about JSON in particular now. What is JSON? JSON is a lightweight data format. This is the format of JSON. This is easy to read and edit for humans. This is either a collection of key value pairs or a list of values like this. So here first name is the key and John is value, last name is the key, Smith is value, is alive is key, and true is a boolean value, age is a key, and 25 is the int value. So this is a very lightweight data format which is used to transfer data from server to client in web services. Let's see the example in detail. So here first name, last name, address, phone numbers, these are all the keys. Paramveer, Singh, street number 123 and others, these are all the values. The data is represented by key in quotes and values in quotes if it is in string, and without quotes if it is boolean or int. And all these key value pairs are separated by comma, and key is separated by its value by colon, and this is bundled into curly braces. Here we can see that there is again curly braces in the value part of the address, because address is again referring to a JSON data, that is a JSON object. So the value of address key here is a JSON object, and that JSON object further contains number of key value pairs. The phone number here, the phone numbers key here is actually referring to a list of key value pairs or JSON objects. So the important thing is the key value pairs and the differentiation between curly braces and square brackets. Square brackets represent the list of the values, and curly braces represent a particular object. Let's see this in our example. Earlier we were parsing the simple text from this URL. Now I'll be replacing this URL with the new URL which returns a JSON data. So this is the URL employee details slash 3323. This returns JSON data of employee details. So I'll be replacing this data, this URL with this URL. This URL returns JSON data for an employee details. This is a sample data for employee details. I'll be replacing this URL in the code. Now I'll be getting JSON data instead of simple text from the server. Let's see the result. So this is the data I'm displaying here. This data is not completely showing because the height of the text view is not enough. I'll increase the height of the text view. We'll run the application again. So this is the data which is showing here. It is still not completely showing because the font is large. Now this is the data which is displaying, but this data is in very raw format, and this is not useful for the user in JSON format as such. So I will have to parse this data, and I will have to extract the useful values from here. I'll go to the main activity again, and I will show the code for parsing the JSON data. So Parse JSON is a method written here where I'm passing the raw JSON data, and I'm using JSON object, which is Android API class, for handling JSON and parsing the data in JSON string format. First, I will create a JSON object by passing the raw JSON data string, and then I will start getting the values, passing them the keys. For example, if we see this data, JSON data, these are the keys: first name, last name, ID is alive. So I'll be using these keys here in the code to get the corresponding values. So JObject.getString first name, JObject.getString last name, JObject.getString ID, and so on. As I have told you, here for the address key there is a JSON object again. So for the address key I will extract a JSON object, address JObject, JObj.getJSON object address, and now address JObject will be containing a JSON object which will in turn have all these key value pairs. So for example, I have extracted city from address JSON object, and now I'll be showing all these details which I have extracted in the UI. So now it is showing me a useful set of values: employee details, name Paramveer Singh, ID 3323, age 28, and city Gurgaon. So this is all about JSON values. So next we'll be talking about handlers. We'll see how we can load images in UI by downloading them from web. We'll talk about common limitations and problems in connectivity, and we'll also talk about Android services to run long background operations. Thank you.